Hi, my name is Ben Atkinson and welcome to the Functional Health Podcast. I interview some of the leading voices in nutrition and lifestyle medicine, and I will share with you their stories, their expertise and their advice, shedding light on the industry from each of their perspectives to help improve your health from today. This week, I'm delighted to share with you my conversation with the Mac twins. Lisa and Alana Mac are the founders of the company The Gut Stuff, helping to bring cutting-edge scientific information with regards to gut health to the masses. Today, we discuss practical tips for good gut health and how to optimize well-being whilst living the modern-day hectic lifestyle. So, without further ado, Lisa, Alana, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
You're so very welcome. Well, I introduced you just a little bit before, but to start off, can you tell us why you got interested in gut health in the first place? Because you're two DJs, right?
Yeah.
Seems to be very unusual.
It was a random journey.
So we volunteered for Twin Research, which is the research facility at King's under Tim Spector, who you may know. And he asked us one day if we wanted to have our guts analysed. So the American Gut Project was just kicking off.
Our first question was, what's your gut?
And then we were like, and secondly, what do we have to do? And he was like, you have to send your poo off in the post every day for 2 months. Like, fine. You've got to have a couple of colonoscopies. Fine. And we're going to put you on fairly strict diets. And I was like, we were like, okay, great. So then that 2 months later, we went through some actually on hindsight fairly rigorous tests. And they found out that we only had within that window about 30 to 40% the same microbiome. And our gut health journey kind of started from there because we were speaking to a lot of different scientists. Obviously, Tim was the main one, but we realised that actually there was loads of scientists talking about that. So we did a little YouTube series interviewing a lot of them, and 6 episodes turned into 36 episodes.
Yeah, I saw them.
And and then that sort of piqued our interest from a personal perspective, but also genuinely it just died because we were like, we wish we could tell our pals this stuff, and that's the main reason we started it.
It was like, how does no one know this?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, there's this ecosystem living in, around, and on us, and we all know nothing about it. It's mad. We just became...
Quite a while ago, 4 years ago or something maybe.
Yeah, 4 years ago. So we just became super passionate from there, really.
Incredible. It seems pretty weird, like how you got interested, like in the science in the first place. Because a lot of people would be like, "Why would I go on a restrictive diet, send my poo off in the post?" What interests you in that element of it?
Well, we obviously were in the entertainment industry, being DJs, and I was meant to do law and business at uni, and Lisa was meant to do medicine.
Changed my UCAS form.
And I went to dance school, and Lisa went to drama school, so you can imagine our mum and dad's faces.
Wow.
But as we were going through all this research, it sort of was like scratching that itch of, I don't know, like analysis and conclusions, and the problem, or one of the main things about the entertainment industry, is it's such down to other people, and it's luck, and it's, you know, all sort of airy-fairy, and this was like something that we really liked because it was so linear, and we just were genuinely interested from a narcissistic point of view,
but also like just physiologically what is different between us, because people compare us all the time, obviously, and it's mostly in an aesthetic way, and actually it was interesting to see why our bodies behave so differently. So, for example, I was always a stone heavier, even when they put us on the same diets, so it was quite interesting. And we always used to do that, like, I'll go on the Dukan diet and you do the cabbage soup diet, and we'll see. It wasn't even a weight loss thing. It was like, let's just see how we feel. And we used to do that all the time.
I mean, such nonsense, those
twin
sort of diets.
Experiments.
You'd literally, like, cabbage soup diet we did in 2005 before Magaluf. And then we went to Magaluf and drank 14 litres of vodka. Just absolutely, probably the worst thing you could do for your body over a course of a month.
Yeah. And I think it was a bit as well from like a fire in our bellies. We come from working class Scottish background, where diet ain't a priority. And we were growing up on Greg's softies and yum yums and deep fried pizza and chips, and our dad died of a heart attack in his 50s, and people were learning what to eat through Instagram and having really restrictive diets because that worked for one person on Instagram. And it was kind of a perfect storm of all those things, to be honest.
And we were like, as well, if we can't be sold the same diet, then nobody can. So this idea of personalised nutrition, and also just the word diet, as soon as we all, as a as a culture, we all think diet and we think restriction and doing it 3 weeks before you go on holiday. And actually, as we were going through research, we were like, diet doesn't mean that. It just means what are you putting in your body, and seeing it more as like a sustainable lifestyle rather than 2 weeks or 3 weeks before you go on holiday.
And we just kind of felt there was a space for a brand or a business or a person or some people
or two blonde identical twins
to talk about it in an efficacious way, but also in a way that was quite pop culture, which I think is hopefully we've created well, but also the kind of science evidence-based thing on Instagram gets a bit elitist for a while when 90%, 99% of the population don't know what a systematic review or a randomized controlled trial is. And you exclude a lot of people when you start to talk about that. And I completely understand we have a lot of scientists that work with us and for us, and I completely understand that it has to come from that way, but we also have to educate the public, and there are some lifestyle things as well that you can try that have no contraindications, and that, you know, that's obviously getting a bit deep into it, but I think there was that as well, as it very much was seen as like a middle class elitist thing, like kefir kombucha, woohoo, the microbiome, yay.
And as well, I think people don't want to be patronised or preached to. Do you know what I mean? They just want the facts, and that was something that was really important to us, I think, on how we conveyed the information and how we got passionate about it. People weren't preaching to us like, you must do this, you must do that. We just were on this journey and became passionate about it.
Yeah.
No one was sort of beating us with a stick saying you've got to eat this and you've got to eat that.
And what you said before about diets, I mean, people always go on these diets, and the diet word in and of itself, what it means to most people is like a temporary period of time.
Totally,
Restriction, a temporary period of time where when you eat differently, then you go back eating the same again as before the holiday or before the wedding or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But then when you're saying you both were on the same diet and you had like different elements in terms of weight loss, that's really interesting, because people do look at people on Instagram or social media and be like, well, it worked for that person, it's going to work for me. And it's like a real general statement. And personalized nutrition is key. And I credit you both, because what you're doing is like dispelling the myth through science and through speaking to these professors and scientists. Trying.
I think as well, like, there is a lot of it. There was an amazing article, which you can put in this, from the Fast Company, about inequality in terms of like social inequality and the microbiome. And honestly, what some people feed their dogs on Instagram wouldn't feed a family of four from a poor family. And it's like, oh, I've given my dog this and this, and you're like, people don't have access to jaggery and whatever else you're putting in your food. Like, I think that there is a space for that, and that's great, but a lot of people are out of touch with what happens in the rest of the UK. And London is an echo chamber, and
the wellness world is also an echo chamber.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, grotesque in some ways a lot of the time, and it infuriates us that people hold everyone to such high standards, both like financially and in terms of like in an aspirational way. Like, I think we all have to be inspirational instead of aspirational. You don't need Buddha bowls to eat healthily or well.
Although they are tasty.
But they're great. But yeah, rant over on that front. But yeah.
Okay, good. And then it brings you to starting the gut stuff.
Yeah.
So what is your aim of like starting the gut stuff? You mentioned about just speaking about it and sharing information.
So, I mean, as a sort of elevator pitch strapline, it is to empower gut health in everyone. And also, so gut health is something that nobody talks about. Very counterintuitive when you think about it like that, and it's a contradiction. But no one talks about brushing their teeth, for example, because it's so intrinsic.
And that's what we want gut health to be for people. So habitual and as instinct, and everyone has the knowledge and the facts that we won't need to talk about it, because we'll just, take it as part of our everyday.
And I guess lastly, bridging the gap between the NHS and a very expensive nutritionist. What can we do to bridge that gap and democratise nutrition and dieting, or diets, I'm kind of using that word, for everyone, because it's a very complex science, as you know, and a lot of people within the industry argue with each other without realising or knowing that actually it's confusing everyone even more. And I think not coming from the industry, some people will see it as a downfall because we're not necessarily experts in the area, but equally we come at it from an objective point of view, and we are the everyman like everyone else, and we have a team of amazing people around us that tell us what's what. And hopefully we convey that in a way that people can understand and feel as like it's for them.
And something that we've been really toying with recently is obviously a lot of people that follow us come to us because they have a digestive issue, so IBD, Crohn's, colitis, which are on the rise as well. And we want to definitely cater to those people, but our main aim and objective is for gut health in general for everyone, because it isn't just digestive issues. It's, you know, it's linked to mental health, arthritis, Parkinson's, all this new research coming out. So everyone should be starting to think about their gut health, and most importantly, people thinking about, you know, the younger generation think about it as a preventative for diseases in the future is something that we're really passionate about as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And just to echo what you're saying, Lisa, like, you are coming at it from a unique perspective, because normally it's like either nutritionists talking about it or people which don't liaise with scientists. And you're a person, you're a lay people, but you are speaking to scientists. And you I know you read systematic reviews and you post them online and things like that. So,
we have bedtime reading. Our team gives us bedtime reading with all the new studies that are coming out.
We've got about 10-ish PhD students now that feed the latest science into us, because obviously with all the review, with all everything coming out, so we have, Alana and I get a bedtime reading package, and as soon as I get as far as like oligosaccharides, I'm like, guys, I switched off, I don't know, something call me, give me a WhatsApp note, I don't understand. So we start, and that's pretty cool because they are obviously at the forefront of the science,
and it is good because I think they feed the information to us, and then we sort of put it in our own words out that people will understand. So we're the sort of middleman, I guess, women.
I mean, that's science communication. That's something which I'm hugely passionate about. Just taking the really complex stuff and making it understandable for people that aren't scientists. Because that gap, really hasn't really been bridged. It's why, like, I always use the same example. I remember reading in the newspaper, like, butter causes heart attacks, and then, like, the next week, butter is back on the menu. And I'm like, what is going on? And then if you read that science behind those headlines, it doesn't say that at all.
I know. Totally. And I think it's about giving people two sides of the coin. So we never say this is right and this is wrong. Like, there's a few points that we can get onto later that we're pretty much agreed on, but things like raw milk or not raw milk, we will put both sides of the argument up on social media or on the website, and people can empower themselves to make the decision themselves.
That's and also, the word, right? Empower.
People think science is black and white, and it's so nuanced as well. Like, even the studies, you're like having to explain, well, it was done on mice, and wasn't hugely conclusive. So, and it's like, because behaviourally we're all looking for answers, that's what we want. And actually we spend our whole time going, kind of, and people say, what do you mean, like my beer belly, you talk about gut, or what do you mean like Yakult? And you're like, sort of, kind of. Like, I think there's like, so even conversationally, it's so nuanced. I think with the science, everyone needs to be pretty honest about where it's at, and we're scratching the surface, and
still a long
people
way off.
Accept that. Like, we don't have to patronise people into stuff. It's like, look, here's what we think now. It might be different next week. We'll keep you posted. Exactly.
Rather than being like disingenuous and be like, this is one way and it's the only way to be healthy. Which I think there's a lot of that in the nutrition world.
Totally.
Yeah. And same with why
Hashtag
all these diets
veganism.
exist.
Hashtag veganism.
No, well, we'll see. I think is what the whole vegan thing we get asked about a lot. We can maybe get onto that, but
well, we can now.
No, do you know what? After Game Changers on Netflix, our events were swamped with people asking about it, and you know,
if it sparks a conversation, great.
Look, there's very few papers on meat and gut health and the microbiome at the minute. Most people in our community, I would say, are vegan through ethical choices rather than through health choices. We ask a scientist, can you do something in this? Or we ask dietitians, like, what do you think? And I think, look, if people are swapping in more veg into their diet, so they've got plant-based diversity, which we'll talk about, then brilliant. But I mean, Game Changers, I think, was made by someone that owns a plant-based food company.
Yeah, it was a pea protein company.
Yeah. So
We're not vegan.
We're not.
Okay.
We like cheese too much.
I like cheese too much. Yeah.
Which has a positive effect on the microbiome.
Totally. Blue cheese, exactly.
Best day of my
Roquefort.
life, and I found that out. Best day of my life. Fact.
That red wine and coffee, I was like, I like this gut health thing.
That's the only reason we started the gut stuff.
But I think you're so right with the vegan thing. There isn't that many studies on it, especially in the context of like a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
There'll be a study like, oh, if you eat meat, this will happen to your gut, or you'll start producing these compounds in your blood. But it's with someone that isn't that healthy to begin with.
Absolutely.
So you can't really tell what happens to the rest of the population. Or maybe someone who eats like a plant-focused diet that has meat on a daily basis even might not have a negative effect at all.
Totally.
Even might be beneficial, but the studies aren't out yet.
Yeah, and even like, we did the last test we did at King's, we were hooked up like the matrix, blood glucose levels and all that sort of thing, and we spiked at different meats and different, so even identical twins with 100% the same DNA were reacting differently to meat. So
I guess it's like with all these things, like if it's because a lot of going on a restrictive diet like that can cause a lot of people stress, which has an effect on your microbiome. And similar to fasting, like I can't fast because my blood sugar levels are naturally very, very low. So I get hungry very, very quickly. But and it's kind of a similar thing, like, and I don't know, people might disagree with this, but it's like if you try it and it makes you feel better, go for gold. Same with veganism or vegetarianism. Like if you're not doing it for ethical reasons, if you feel better, then great. But there isn't a lot of science behind why you should be doing it over anything else at the minute.
The thing is with gut health, I think what I love about it, when we talk about gut health, it's not a specific diet. It's not, following a specific routine or lifestyle nutrition. It's about adding things in and making simple swaps. And I think that for me is the beauty of it, of starting to look after your gut health. You don't need to completely overhaul your life and go on stupid detox nonsense
I was about
stuff.
to say there's bigger hills to climb, and detox is one of them.
Detoxes, behave yourself, everyone. You should be eradicated from the earth. But what I love about looking after your gut is that it's about adding stuff in and upping what we're already having, and like things like fiber, just having more of it. And it's easy and it's simple, and we can all do it today.
You're right. Like, I don't like demonizing food, but if you make it habitual, like brushing your teeth, someone might pick up an apple instead of a bag of crisps or something.
Yeah.
Right? And we all know fruit's healthy for you, but if people are like thinking, oh, well, my gut, because that is something which maybe they can feel more, if they have good digestive health, then they'll start thinking that way.
Yeah. Totally. And also, 20% of the time you might go for that bag of crisps, especially if you're hungover. Grab those kettle chips.
Salt.
Salt and vinegar squares for days.
And I think that's one of the reasons as well, I think the gut stuff has resonated because Lisa and I aren't angels. I mean, we were DJs. We would still go for McDonald's at 3 a.m. every so often. But I think that's what makes it accessible, is that we aren't, standing on our heads drinking green smoothies every day.
And also I think the approach of, if you can arm someone with the fact based on that, so instead of just saying the really binary things of have this or don't have that, that's a really binary conversation to have. Yeah. If you go, look, actually ultra processed foods stifles your good bacteria, it can mess around with your best garden pal that lives in your gut. You can make a choice whether you have those crisps or not, but if you know that fact, you might make a better one, you might not, but you know that now. And I think instead of, here's what you can have, good foods, bad foods, it treats people like 5-year-olds and just give them the facts and let them make decisions for themselves. Because if they choose the apple and they've got more fibre and they feel better, they'll choose the apple next time. Bit Adam and Eve-esque, really.
On the apple.
Maybe
4 grams of fibre.
Fruit.
Yes, it's the opposite. Have the apple.
It turns out millions of bacteria on the skin of the apple.
Indeed.
I only realised from your post the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting,
well done,
wasn't
guys.
it? I thought that was so interesting.
Only 4 grams of fibre, though. So you've got a lot of apples. But, I mean, why not? Go for it.
Okay, so we talked about why people should be interested in gut health, but why is gut health important? Is it something that people can feel on a daily basis? I mean, you said it's linked to all these kind of conditions, but how do you know if you've got good gut health?
Yeah, well, just personally, 70% of your immune system is housed in your gut.
I think it's 60 now.
Yeah, 60 to 70. It does
changes.
change. And I know that since I've been looking after my gut health, which has been about 3 or 4 years now, I haven't been ill. So there's like a tangible tip, a personal, completely anecdotal. It could just be that, I don't know, when I came into my 30s, I became really well.
Yeah,
exactly. I've done so much in my 20s that my immune system.
I think it's like with anything, like we want it to have a really functional benefit. And you're like, I want to know that my skin is better and this is better.
Yeah. Whatever.
But some people want to see tangible results immediately. You might not. When we were going through the studies, it was about 2 weeks since we saw a drastic change in their diversity. Which means lots of different things. Because at the minute, we don't know what a good gut looks like. You can feel what a good gut might look like. But for the minute, we think that it's a diverse microbiome, so lots of different types of bacteria in there. And I guess it's like people kind of, when you tune in, that's what we say about gut diaries and stuff, you might see a really steep growth and feel great, or you might just kind of not feel anything, but you never know what positive effect it's having 5-10 years down the line.
But I think the gut-brain axis is a really exciting field of research. So the links between gut health and mental health. Still very new though, so we have to be really careful. A lot of the studies have been done on mice, so, until we've done more on humans. But, I think that is a good example of, how much, 90% of serotonin is produced in your gut, which is your happy hormone. So if you're starting to look after your gut health, it could have an effect. I don't agree with all this, like, good mood. What's it? Good food mood and all this. Good mood food and all that. I think we're still a bit far off of labelling foods to help your mood. But it's a really exciting field of research, and I think that's something where people will start to feel more tangible results as the science, we delve deeper into the science.
We went to go and see, have you read the Psychobiotic Revolution, John Cryan's book? We went to go and visit him in Cork a couple of weeks ago, and Ted Dinnan and John Cryan are like the leading guys in the gut brain axis, and we spent a day there in all their labs, and literally our mouths were like gaping open for the full 24 hours. I was like, just incredible. So there's more to come on that. Which is coming out soon.
Give us a sneak peek rather than just saying it's absolutely amazing.
Well, they've got such a big research facility with like 200 staff, and the studies that they're doing on the gut brain axis are huge. They're ongoing though, so we don't know any results yet. But I think they say a few are coming out in June, and one in June and one in September. So we'll be the first to they won't even tell us what's looking like, because they can't say anything until it's concluded. But it's looking like
based on stress.
Amazing, based on stress in the gut,
So we'll keep posted. Because we need them.
Well, we don't know either yet. We just got excited.
But there's even a lot of nutritionists now and psychologists. I remember speaking to Kimberly Wilson.
Queen. What a legend.
She is amazing. I remember the first time I met her, actually, was when you took over Old Street Station.
So that was
like my introduction.
And
then
she
I had her on the
is
podcast.
A queen.
How much she's the best.
She's brilliant. She's brilliant. But there are clinicians like this kind of leveraging nutritional protocols in order to hopefully make a benefit on your mental health. But even just, there's things like if you're deficient in certain B vitamins, it can have an impact on your mental health. And this is documented. So you can imagine why the things in your gut would have a beneficial effect as well,
absolutely.
or a negative one.
And I think that the reason why people are leveraging it, like when we've partnered with Anxiety UK for everything that we talk about on the gut brain axis, because we know that we have to talk to like clinicians in that space to make sure, because nutrition is one aspect of that conversation. Mental health multifactorial, we all know that nutrition's one aspect, but it's an aspect that we are, with certain limitations, obviously financial and social economic status, whatever being one of them, but we are generally in control of what we put in our bodies and into our mouths. And that is something that for everyone else and clinicians is quite an empowering thing, that actually here's something else that might help as well, alongside, I don't know, CBT or whatever. CBT, not CBD, by the way.
Yeah, not CBD oil. CBT.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm kind of thinking that empowering element, because quite a lot of the time people are thinking I need to go to their doctor, and you're saying that they should as well, but knowing that they can do something themselves at home, I think is hugely empowering, and it puts the ball in their court some of the time as well. And that's the same with diet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's, I think as well, like a lot of the time, obviously GPs don't have to have even an hour of nutrition. So there is that gap in their knowledge. And at the minute, there isn't any way to fill that isn't expensive. Or confusing. Mm-hmm. So that's where we're focusing a lot of our energies this year with the gut stuff.
Fantastic. So what do you guys do on like a daily basis to maintain good gut health? Because I've seen you run around like Duracell bunnies.
Yeah,
I mean,
we have got a lot of energy naturally.
Okay.
Yeah. We try to move. I mean, that's one thing. And we have, with our team as well, we're like, look, if you need to go for a run in lunchtime, if you want to go and do yoga, please get outside and do that. We don't get outside enough. I was at something recently that they said, it was Madeline Shaw actually, we were speaking with her at an event last week, and she said that we spend 90% of our time inside in the UK and sitting sedentary, and obviously that's got an influence on our vitamin D levels, but also the bacteria that we're exposed to, or not, as the case may be. We're in quite clinical environments.
I think as well, like I look at my TfL map or city mapper and I'm like, could I walk that? Could I walk? Yeah, I can walk that. Yeah. Saving me my TfL £3.90 or whatever it is, and I'm getting out and I'm walking. So we do try and walk as much as we can and exercise.
Also eat a lot of fibre.
We love fibre.
A lot of fibre.
Because you're meant to have 30 grams of fibre a day, which is actually a lot. Mm-hmm. And the average person in the UK and the US only has 15. So we're not getting enough fibre. And I think what really clicked with us is that we all know that fibre makes you go. Can you think of like all brand prune juice and your grandparents? But now we know that fibre actually feeds the good bacteria. Mm-hmm. So there's another reason why we should be having more fibre.
And lots of different types of dietary fibre, as we know that there's, I think, 4 different types that we know of, and lots of different fruit and veg have different types. So there's that. We also do have quite a lot of ferments in the office. As you can imagine, we get sent quite a lot of them. And also, Mike, our new head of product, didn't do fermentation and now has a full fermentation station at home. He's got pipes. He's like going for gold. Yeah. So whoever, like, someone will always try and bring in something that they're doing from home. And we have after work drinks on a Friday. It's not like we're all coming here like, hi, I've made this turmeric sauerkraut. It's not like that at all.
We have pints on a Friday, every day.
We all eat together for lunch so we can chat and eat mindfully.
With simple swaps as well, like I swap now, I have sourdough. If I'm going to have bread, I'll have sourdough fermented. Things like kefir instead of just normal yogurt. And it's just, it has literally been simple swaps. We haven't completely overhauled our lives. And tuning in, like I think we never really tuned into our bodies before the studies unless we were hungover or were ill. And it's about thinking as well, for me, for both of us, I think, of thinking of it, our bodies as all one rather than I've got a sore arm, I'll fix that. I've got a sore head, I'll fix that.
Holistic,
and the word. Is it? Yeah, I know, but holistic just sounds a bit woo-woo, doesn't it?
I know what you mean. I use it. I'm trying to find another word.
I don't like that word.
Prioritising sleep. I think when I was saying earlier, we were that week on Old Street. So we were in Old Street 7 till 7, and then we were doing the Love Island tour at the time. So we had 4 dates, and we were getting on flights or trains and going on stage at 1 a.m. and getting back to Old Street for 7. And we went to like a gut health retreat after that, and the team were like, please leave. Firstly, us alone, and secondly, you need to sleep. And our cortisol levels must have been through the roof. Our white blood cells and platelets had shrunk, had depleted and had grown in size to make up for the fact that there wasn't that many. And the doctor there was like, when did you last have a day off? And we scrolled through our phones, and it was 5 months before that, like not even half a day, it'd been 5 months. And I was like, okay,
something needs to
stop. So now we are trying to retire from djing, and I go to my bed at 9:30 every night.
Is that public knowledge now?
We're semi-retired.
We like just been a bit. sort of doing 2 a month. And picking the ones that we want to do, really, which is obviously a really privileged position to be in, and never thought we'd be there. But yeah, the gut stuff is something what we're passionate about, and that's what gets us up in the morning, really, after our nice early nights. So yeah, prioritising sleep, because actually, anecdotally for me, my stomach goes absolutely haywire when I'm stressed and haven't slept. Like on holiday, even though you're eating maybe potentially richer foods or foods that you haven't had before, I never have any problems because I'm chilled, unless Alana is not on holiday with me and is shouting at me for not working. So that's very much a double-edged sword when either of us goes on holiday.
Although you can't see this at home, but Alana just smirked when
she's at work. She's at work. Lisa loves a holiday.
I do know. I work every time I'm on holiday as well. So desist.
So when you were DJing the whole time, you didn't get a day off for 5 months. How do you maintain good gut health during that time? Because some people are like, go, and they're like, I don't really have time to prep.
Yeah. It was, again, simple swaps, swapping those Diet Cokes for some kombuchas, and just making sure we were, even if we weren't eating at necessarily the same time every day, when we were having a meal, it being as less processed, so what would the word be? Least processed as we possibly could find.
And also trying to keep a routine within the sleep clock, the weird hours that we were working in. I think allowing ourselves to sleep in until 10, for example, if we could. So it was 3 a.m. till 10. But then when you come off stage, you're like buzzing for like an hour.
To be fair, it was, we didn't do it well. That's the God's honest truth. We probably didn't do it well enough. And I think that's why we've had to say no and cut back, because it wasn't good for us, and it wasn't good for our
I think
health.
as well, like knowing your limitations, like because we naturally have a lot of energy, we just kept burning and going, and because we were so excited about what was going on with the gut stuff, and it was like a really exciting time, which it still is, but now we've just got a bit of a more measured approach to it, I think.
We're too old, Lisa.
We're too old.
We're not. We're only 31.
We're only 31.
Well, I think it's an important lesson as well, just to know like your limits, because people often just burn themselves out.
Yeah.
And we know stress is bad for your gut anyway.
Yeah.
So just acknowledging that you need to take a step back is like hugely important.
Definitely. And success doesn't mean, I think when we think we're busy, it means we're successful.
It's like a badge of honor. Like, I'm so busy.
I think we have to be careful of that. And especially when we are always switched on with phones and iPads and laptops and the rest of it, I think it is important to have time for you, because then you're no use to anyone if you're
we got to the point where we just weren't doing anything well. Like, it was...
And not enjoying any of it. And it's like, what's the point?
Well-being aspect of life is it doesn't have to be Gwyneth Paltrow and
gong baths,
vaginal candles, whatever it is she blew out this week. I think people have this perception that health is just not being ill, and well-being is this like woo-woo thing.
Gong baths
and stuff. But gong baths are...
I quite like a gong bath.
Yeah, I sort of can. I'm not very good at being...
I don't even know what a gong bath is. So.
It's quite... We actually have something...
It's like a meditation.
Like flotation tanks and stuff.
Yeah.
That is like my worst nightmare. I love some, but I'm like... I lie in them and regret every decision I've ever made in my whole life. Like,
I think as well, like when people, the majority, it's getting a lot better now, but before, yoga was seen as sort of this like hippy dippy, woo, hum. But actually for me, I love hot yoga. I practice it a lot. But a lot of the time for me, it's the exercise element, but it's also not being on my phone for that hour is really important.
And like counting reps and stuff, like for me, and when I'm doing HIIT classes, it's quite meditative, because you're like, oh my goodness, get me through it. 8, 6, 5. But I think I find that quite meditative. It's very much an action. It doesn't have to be something that's passive.
And people always say to us, like, what do you do to unwind and self-care and all that? I'm like, go to the pub with my pals, genuinely. Because it's the one and only time that I feel like I can 100% be myself and I'm totally relaxed.
And someone said to me, and the reason we got to that question was like, what's the thing that makes time pass and you don't notice? And we were both like, work. Okay, except work. And it was being with our pals. Like, I never look at my phone. I just, it gets to like 4 a.m. and I'm like, I should go home, guys.
Too much pure Scottish banter.
Yeah.
Are you saying all your friends are Scottish?
The majority are.
Yeah, unfortunately. We do have a lot of other pals, but yeah, we've got a bit of a
the core team are Scottish.
Yeah, it's because our pals are our pals since we were young. So we've made new pals. We're not exclusive in that way. But yeah, and none of our pals are in this industry, and none of our pals are in the entertainment industry, like our close pals.
Yeah.
And I think that has been super important for us in life, because they don't care what we're doing.
They only care that we're happy, and that should be what it is. Yeah. What it should be. So yeah, go to the pub with your pals.
This is a whole new podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't remember what the original.
Yeah, exactly. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
I can bring it back though, guys. Red wine, high in polyphenols, good for your gut. So if you are going to the pub with your pals,
obviously not in excess.
Or Guinness, that's got high in polyphenols.
Yeah, well,
right?
yeah. Well,
love a Guinness. Such a fan. The best Guinness I ever had was after running the marathon, and I've never tasted anything as glorious as that pint of Guinness.
In terms of sports nutrition, probably wouldn't recommend it.
No.
In terms of just pure enjoyment, highly recommend
minerals. Got minerals in there. I actually found we were meeting our friend Shelley on a Monday night, and she was like, "There's an app that you can get a free pint of Guinness in a lot of London pubs on," and I was like, And so I googled 7 positive aspects of Guinness and just like sent it to her. I was like, "Absolutely, we need Guinness today."
It's a school night, but who cares?
Exactly.
Right, guys. I know we're short on time, so I want to bring this all to a close. I've got 3 more questions for you.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
What is the number one health change that you've made in your entire life, and why?
Excellent
good question.
We've never had that question before.
Well, that is good.
Yeah, up in my fibre, definitely.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I think, before there's all these sort of fads like the Atkins diet, low carb diet, and I think they've had a really bad effect on a lot of people, and especially our guts, and generally just up my fibre.
Mine's is my veg box. I'm such a fan. Like, I get so excited for a Wednesday for that to turn up on my doorstep. So I get like a local veg box. Obviously, there's other brands out there. And I've learned so much about different types of veg. I've become so experimental with my cooking. And it's such a good conversation point. My friends are all like, "Lisa, where'd you get your veg box this week?" Like, obviously, they're taking
Nobody actually cares.
Nobody cares. But I am more than willing to have the conversation. So, yeah, my veg box.
Can I change mine?
Yeah.
Hot yoga. Hot yoga, because I've had arthritis since we were 7. That was like one of the studies that when we were going through the studies, they couldn't realise why I had juvenile chronic arthritis.
It's a chapter in Tim's book.
The Diet Myth.
It's about
actually on
Alana and our arthritis.
Yeah. And I took myself off all my medication when I was 16, found hot yoga when I was 21, and have never went back on any.
Do not encourage people to come off any medication.
No, don't, but it just helped me. GP. It helped me. I love it. It's good for my mind and my body and my soul.
Veg and yoga.
Holistic. We're talking about holistic, the words I didn't want to use. That's exactly what it's bagging into.
Fantastic. Second one is that how do you think more of a focus on gut health could be more integrated in our healthcare system? And I asked this question in various different ways to different people. But what do you think?
So we can't talk about it yet, but we're working on that. And I think the main thing is making the information accessible. And how you do that, is that through GPs? Is that through pop culture avenues? Is that through
podcasts?
It's through podcasts. I think you have to talk about gut health in places where people would not expect you to talk about gut health.
Yeah, we went on the builder sites at Balfour Beatty and spoke to their builders about gut health on Toolbox Talks, and it was amazing.
Yeah,
that sounds awesome. Were they receptive to
totally
that?
Yeah. One guy was like, "Yeah, my wife gets sticky tummy when she eats garlic," blah, blah, blah. and we actually have a new like corporate wellness strand to the business, and it sounds again like a wanky thing, but you're reaching audiences for people that come to our events have a bit of knowledge or they're curious, and I think it's important for us as a business to reach people that don't care. And then do care, which is the great. Yeah, and honestly, you can see the light bulbs when and it's the best feeling.
Awesome. We get up. That's what gets us up in the morning, isn't it? And we've been going into quite a lot of schools and universities and things like that. So starting to do it to educate people from a younger age is something that we're looking to do more in 2020.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That is the one major thing that I enjoy, is like working with people.
Yeah.
Because you can actually see the effect that it's having on them just right then and there. When you said like the light bulbs go on,
Yeah.
it's like the best feeling
Totally.
in the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's that, it comes back to that empowering piece, doesn't it? And that's exactly what you're doing when that light bulb gets switched on, is that you're encouraging people to change behaviours, which is, powerful.
Grassroots forever.
Yeah.
Right, last question, which I ask absolutely everyone that comes on the show. Could you give the listeners, I know you've given a lot already, but 3 quick tips to help improve the health and well-being from today?
Excellent question. Gut diaries. So that doesn't have to, we're not saying that you have to buy ours, but it is laid out quite nicely, and there's even some poos you can circle in the diaries. But I think tuning in to what's going on is really important. We don't do it unless we're not well or we're hungover.
Yeah.
And noting that down feels silly at first, potentially, but it's really important, because if you go to your GP or even a dietitian with a digestive issue or complaint, they will send you away to do a food diary. And have it there ready and waiting for them, I would say.
And break the poo taboo. Like, we should all be talking about poo. I love talking about poos. I love toilet chat. That's linked into that one. Second one would be just realising that everyone's different. So what you do makes you feel better or healthier or the best version of you isn't going to be the same as your best friend. So it's recognising that, I think, and not just looking at Instagram and seeing it as gospel, and you know, look around and get lots of different opinions and come to a decision yourself. Because and also realising that the science is still super new, and it's exciting that it's still new, because we are just scratching the surface, but also keeping that, like, the critical thinking piece, I think, is huge. So number 2, think critically.
And number 3 would be, I think, like, the power is in you. So you don't have to rely on someone else to tell you what to do with your body. Of course, if you have any sort of issue,
See your GP.
And experts. But if you're swimming around the internet, it's like that ties quite into critical thinking. Like, if it's claiming to be a magic bullet, if it's a product or thing, and if it's a person claiming to know everything about the microbiome or gut health, run away.
Because no one does.
Because nobody does yet. And there isn't a magic bullet. If there was, someone would be really rich. So that's it. Like, the power is within you to find out what's good for your body. I think.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm delighted to finally speak with you. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
But before you go, can you tell everyone where they can find you and what exciting projects you have coming up?
Yeah. It's www.thegutstuff.com. We have...
Yeah, do people still say www anymore?
No, probably not. Gutstuff.com.
I don't even think it needs
not
to type in
1990. We're just at the gut stuff on pretty much everything. We have a... When will this go out? We have a food snacking range coming out.
Or has come out, depending on when this podcast
Yes.
has been
Yeah,
released.
exactly.
We do take quite a while to edit, so it might have been out for a year. By the time you managed to squeeze all of our ranting into one thing. We're doing a tour of the UK.
With a bus.
With a bus. That starts
A pink bus. Just
potentially.
I mean, it's definitely going to have some pink on it.
We've got, there's 8 of us now on the team. So there's going to be a lot happening quickly in 2020. It's really exciting. So and of course, we're going to keep building the website out so that it's a good hub. We've got loads of new experts on the team to make some amazing content.
Well, Lisa, Alana, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and I do hope we can speak again soon.
For sure.
Thank you for listening to the Functional Health Podcast. You can find links to everything that we talked about today in the show notes. If you have a second, please consider leaving a 5-star rating on iTunes. It really does make a huge difference and helps get this valuable information out and reach more people. Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date and know whenever I release a new episode. You can connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, or our website, and all questions are welcome. As always, thanks to Josh Aurelia for the editing and Alan Harper for his support.